The Marathon Navigator, a military spec watch made in this case primarily of plastic and filth. Let's see what we can do with it. Hi, welcome to John Breaks Watches. So today figured I'd take a little break for a second from the mechanical watches, and I picked up this cheap quartz watch. I'll figure out what it is in a minute, but it looks cool. It's got a rather nasty NATO strap on it. I have changed the battery on this, so I do know that's why it's working. And I'm pretty sure that any lume that's left on this dial is dead as a doornail at this point. So I figured, well, let's try and see if we can at least clean this up a little bit. I'm going to need to get a new strap. I've taken the back off, which is why goodness me, which is why it came off so easily. Oh, this is just nasty. This strap is just very slightly too big for the gap. I'm kind of worried about damaging it. Okay, there we go. It's a little bit scum laden. I think that one's going to go straight in the trash. You can see from the dirt around here, and just look at the state of that. That's just nasty. We're going to want to clean this carefully. There is a seal on it, so we'll replace that ring when we put it back together. Replace that gasket. And the back of it says Watch Wrist Navigators, MIL PRF 46374G. So it indicates that it is a military style watch, or military watch, to presumably DoD requirements. And September 2003. So we know roughly when it was built. So in September 2003, which is very cool. It also says 26 millicuries. So I'm guessing this used to be tritium, but based on the fact that it isn't working anymore and the fact that these aren't yellowed in the way I might expect them to be if it were radium, I'm guessing this is tritium, because 2003, yeah, bit new for radium. So, well, a lot new for radium, thankfully. Anyway, I figured that we'd try and take this thing apart. It's really not particularly awesome. As far as I can tell, this ring around the outside is actually just part of the case. It's for looks, not function. This is not a turning ring. It looks awfully like this is all one piece and just molded as part of the plastic in the case. But other than that, it does work. It does appear to keep decent time. I mean, it should. It's a quartz watch, and it was a little bit fiddly to get the crown out, but we can set the hands okay. So we're good there. And then the case comes around and kind of mostly protects the crown, which is kind of nice. The crown itself, unmarked, just a plain crown, so nothing exciting. So let's see what we get out of this. Obviously the inner ring has come off just now, so that makes my life easier. That would have been in there. And let's see if we can't find the right screw to take the crown out so we can get the movement out. The movement's already loose with the black ring gone, so that makes my life a little bit easier. So what I'm looking for is to see if I can find any obvious holes around to poke at, but I don't. And I don't see any obvious arrows indicating here's the bit where you stick a pin in order to release. And so what I'm going to do instead is just loosen a screw. If I can find a screwdriver, which apparently is eluding me right now. There we go. All right. Let's see if undoing this screw gives me what I need. Or at least loosening that screw. Well. Okay. Let's see if we can get this out. Good start. Okay, that kind of levers out the way. See if that makes any difference whatsoever. No. Let's see if this whole thing comes off. Okay. So we've got this off. But will it let me? Oh, look. See, there was a button there. It was just hiding. Okay. So let's take that out, and we're leaving sliding pinion behind. Actually looks okay, just desperately filthy. Okay, let's see if that'll come out. No, that's good. That's safe. So then, let's flip this and see what we've got, other than filth. Let's get the hands off. It seems to me that I'm not treating this with the same respect that I would normally treat a mechanical watch with. I fear that's probably true. It's a bit unfair, really. Sorry, seconds hand. Out you come. All right, and see, I give a little bit of respect, right? Use some plastic. Okay, there we go. So that's the hands taken off. Okay, so on this one, unlike some of the other watches we've been using, so I can see on the side of this, I can see a pin coming through from the dial. I can see a pin coming through here. So that's the leg from the dial. And what I'm looking for is the screw right next to it, which I'm hoping is an eccentric screw, which is putting pressure on that. Because if it is, then I've just got to find, I've got one. There's another one here with a screw next to it, 2, 3. So hopefully, if I undo those 3 screws, the dial will plop off. I should say loosen rather than undo. That's 1. 2. I miscounted. I counted 3 of them and there are only 2 because I was going in circles. Let's see if that helps any on either side. I'd say yes. I'm just going to use a case opener for a second just because it's a nice size, nice and flat. But I can use it for leverage. So this side, okay, this side is, I need to twist again, like we did last summer. Let's twist again. Let's not sing again. Hey, there we go. Okay. And unsurprisingly, there we go. Got a wheel and a washer. Oh, wrong way around. There we go. It doesn't really matter. Since we're taking it off. All right. And a very uninspired dial. But actually, it's in quite good condition. I will say that the actual crystal, or plastic crystal on this, is in pretty bad condition. So I might see if we can recover that with some polywash or something like that. That'll be a first for me. That'll be fun. But actually, the dial itself looks pretty nice. I'm quite actually quite pleased with that. So hopefully we can keep it in good condition. All right. Let's take the battery out. That's probably a sound idea. So when you take the battery out, what you want to make sure is that you have the winding stem in, so you can, as it lets down, you can. I may be making that bit up. Don't worry about that. Okay. So batteries out. I really don't understand quartz watches. I mean, other than at a very high level. I guess we'll work top down, which means taking these screws out next, and we'll see what happens. Worst comes to worst, I've trashed a watch that I paid almost nothing for. It's a big screw, which always worries me because there are two smaller screws. Oh, hello. It's going to come with it. Okay. Kind of like to know why that one's a big screw. That one goes into a pillar that goes all the way through. So I've got basically 4 screws here. I just want to make sure I'm not going to undo something I don't need to undo. So let me take off this next big one. Well, I definitely see magnetism going on here, and I'm hoping it's not my screwdriver, but if it is, we'll fix it. 1 second. Okay, looks like it was a screwdriver, and now it's not. So that's good. I like that. Sorry, I just demagnetized the screwdriver. I don't know how they get magnetized. I really don't. Best thing I ever did, getting a variable height desk, I'll tell you. All right, so let's get a feel. There we go. All right, so that's... Ah, okay. So we were actually looking at these 2 screws through this cap, so I'm glad I took those 2 off first, because I really don't need to necessarily need to take the coil off. So off you go. Okay, hold on a second. All right. So I've moved it onto a movement holder. I'm not sure why, but it gives me the feel goods. See? So you look at that wonderful work to make the inside of the watch just look lovely. Yeah. Or not, as the case may be. Genuine plastic. Thank you, sliding clutch. All right, let's take the fact this sits here with what must be the tiniest pinion on it. Not pinion, sorry, pivot. Oh, okay. So this does have a tiny pinion on the bottom of it, which makes sense, I suppose. These are such absolutely minute pivots. They're very tiny. Now, I'm aware that I haven't taken everything off the other side yet, but let's look at this. Let's see what we've got here. So that just sits over the pin there. There's a little peg that sticks out. Okay, that is just a post that goes through. Oh, look at you, you sneaky little thing. Another tiny trying to get lost. And also potentially magnetic. Geez, another magnetic one. That's not good. Oh well, we'll fix all of that. So, okay. Noted. Put that with the gear train. Okay. Okay. All right. Little spring just sneaking in there. And I'm hoping I didn't lose that. Oh, no, there it is. Whoa. It did yeet itself, but thankfully not actually into space this time. Tiny spring. Okay, I got lucky. When will I ever learn? Never. Okay. So let's just finish off the other side. And then reassess where we stand. So it looks like I have one spring, kind of a spring fitting here, that's just holding in these wheels. So try and take it off carefully because I'm a little bit concerned. I got lucky again. I got so lucky. There it is. That one I heard landing so I could track it. Great shape though. Love the shape on that. All right. Very interesting. Kind of a skeleton. I don't really want to try and dig down another layer to get this stuff off. And I'm also obviously, I could take off these parts, but I don't think I'm going to. They're working fine. Why break something that's working? All right. That does appear to be joined, so I'm going to leave it there. Might need to oil it slightly when it comes out. So they're going to go to the ultrasonic, and then I'm going to consider what to do with this filth. I'm thinking before, I'm not going to enjoy this. I'm thinking before I put this in the ultrasonic, maybe we should try and scrape off some of the scum, just because. Somebody else's wrist sweat. Smart man would be wearing finger cots at this point, but what you gonna do? Okay. Well, that looks a little bit better already. Huh? Let's go home. Let's just check what the edges are like. Actually, not too bad, so I'm okay with that. Let's look at this. So I've been trying to look online and figure out whether or not, oh my goodness, whether or not it's okay to put a plastic case in an ultrasonic. And the answer seems to be the ultrasonic bit is mostly okay. It's the cleaning solutions that can be bad. So what I might do with this is just clean it in water. So put it in ultrasonic, but just in water rather than using a watch cleaning solution, because really that's, you know, trying to clean metal parts, and I'm fearing that it will do damage to this more than the filth even. Just, you know, I look at these because this is because it's with a NATO strap. Oh God, look at this mess. With a NATO strap, there's not even spring bars on this that I can find. I'm guessing you're going to have to push them out from the end if I want them out. I'm not even sure if they're going to be sprung. It looks like it is just a friction fit. It looks like it's a friction fit bar. I don't think I'm getting that out. Oh, the scum around the crown hole is delicious. Ugh. Yeah. Okay, so that just leaves me with the actual crystal, and just having a look at this to see if I can figure out how this all goes together, if I'm going to be able to get that crystal out. Because it's got a metal ring here. I'm sorry, I've got to do something about that. That's just nasty. Alright, I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of Rodico to the cause because I can't work around that. That's just horrible. I mean, it looks to me like it should push out. But yeah, I'm worried that I'll do it and then discover that this was supposed to come off after all. Oh, it does. All right. Perfect. So now I have, oh, goodness me, there's more filth. I mean, to be expected, right? I mean, this is where dirt's going to gather, but still, yuck. I guess the only thing worse is if you have something that you know is a sports watch, because then you know people are sweating like crazy into it. How nasty. All right. So there it is. We'll see if we can make this look a little bit better before we're done. And yeah, it's just pushed in friction fit sitting on that rim. And again, we'll be better once we've got rid of some of this scum from the inside. I mean, that's just nasty, isn't it? Need to find a word other than nasty, but that's the word I've got going right now. So, all right. So I'm going to go to the ultrasonic and see what we can do. All right, well, time to start putting this together. I did, as it turns out, take this apart. So I did take the electronics off and a couple of the metal plates that are under there. Cleaned it down with alcohol. And also there is right here, there is a jewel. And so I also cleaned out that jewel hole, had a look under the scope, it looks fine. So we're going to continue putting it back from there. While everything was cleaning, and that's a bit of a lie because this is about a week and a half later that I've actually got to this, I did take a minute to actually look up some things about this watch because I figured people might be interested. So I grab the back of this for a second. There you go. Here's the back of it, which we looked at earlier. So the MIL PRF part basically means that's the military specification that says it's supposed to have like a black dial with white numbers. It's supposed to have graduations around the outside, which are also supposed to be white, and it has to come in a black or a silver case. So basically, it's the specification to which the watch is built in order to sell it to the military. It's also supposed to have a black strap and no sharp edges on it, which, I guess when we look at the case, yeah, I guess that's the idea. Everything's kind of been smoothed off, and none of this stuff is going to cut you. They've taken what could have been a corner and flattened it off here. So that's really where all of that comes from. I did look up the H3 on the dial. If we look at the dial, so I did look at the H3, and you'll recall it says 25 millicuries on the back, and we have H3 on the front. Well, I'm really smart because it turns out that H3 means it has tritium, or at least it used to have tritium. At this point, there's really no life left in this in terms of glow in the dark, which is a real shame. This basically appears to be a Marathon Navigator, which makes sense. It does on the back. Sorry, dial. The dial's in good shape. Was in good shape. It does on the back say it's a wristwatch navigators. Watch wrist, which is, again, it's the military way of putting stuff, right? It's not a wristwatch, it's a watch, wrist. They call it the Navigator rather than Navigators, but I guess it's a Navigator's watch. So basically, I don't know what type and class this is within the military spec, but we can probably guess that it's in the disposable class, non-repairable. September 2003 would be when it was manufactured. And they do actually still sell these, believe it or not. Brand new, these sell, because of course it's military, which means you can charge too much for everything. Brand new, these sell for about $450 from Marathon. That's their retail price. I have no idea if you can get it cheaper elsewhere, but that's crazy expensive for a watch that's just made of plastic like this. But, that's life, right? That's where we are. So anyway, we'll try and put this together. As I say, I did take this apart, and now we're going to do my best to put it back together. Okay. If you end up looking for oil holders, can I just unrecommend any of these? You can see the problem. I've just been able to pick up the whole thing when I'm just trying to take the lid off. I'm going to replace this at some point with one that is actually, like a flip-up lid, because this drives me insane. The other annoyance is, although you don't put a lot of oil in these, for goodness sake, it holds it at an angle. So all of your oil pools down at the front, which actually is less helpful than you might think it is. So I will say that the color of dipstick doesn't mean much compared to the color of the oil. I'm going to use a little bit of HP 1300. And I'm just going to put a little bit of oil around there and wipe a little on the shaft as well. And hopefully that will do the trick. Sit. Okay. Let's get our next wheel in. And again, I'm going to put a tiny bit in the actual hole, for better or worse. And you can see this has a little pin on the bottom of it. It's going to pivot on, so we're going to Try and slide that in there. Okay. So those two are now rotating together, which is nice. And now we have a spring to put in on top, which is the strangest spring, but it's a great shape. I mean, I really do like it, but it's a little bit weird. And for this one, I'm going to come in with a different tweezers so I can drop it in from above. So this one goes something like that. So I'm going to get in the curved end about there, and then so what I'm going to do is just use a piece of pegwood here to hold down one end while I try and come on. There we go. There we are. And let's just check that's rotated round enough. Yeah. So that's kind of how it was when it came out. It basically followed the line of the case round here. So I'm pretty sure I've got that at the right point now. And I'm guessing that little hole is so you can grab the spring when you want to take it out. But everything should still rotate freely, which it seems like it does. But now this wheel's held in, and that means we can flip everything upside down and continue. So I'm going to put these first few pieces in. Okay. Good. And then this one's fun, as you may recall from the teardown. This actually has a little gear on the back of it. So you've got to position that. The surround of this just goes into a little ledge there, which is just long enough to go onto the nub on this end, little pin that comes up. And now that's in place. This also can be moved back and forward. And that's why I put a tiny bit of grease there as well as on the actual pivot. So now we've got to put a spring in, which having got lucky previously, we're going to see if we can get lucky a second time putting it back. And I believe this is the right way around. So it should sit in on that side. Yeah, let's not do this. Come on. There it is. All right, so next up we're going to put in the hack, or at least what I believe is the hack. Should go in right there. And you can just see this end. This has a little cutout that goes into here so that as it moves down, it's going to push in and stop the second hand, so stop the moving as well. At least I think that's the idea. Next up, let's talk about the little magnetic piece that we had before. And you can see it's still magnetic, grabbing onto my tweezers. So here's the thing. I think it's supposed to be magnetic, which means I'm an idiot to try and demagnetize it, because this coil is going to generate a magnetic field. And in fact, there are two metal pieces that come out of here, out of the ends of the coils, and surround this circle in the middle, but don't quite meet, which I strongly suspect is a way of directing a magnetic field right where it's supposed to be, which is on this magnetic gear. So, because I can't really deal with that with steel tweezers, I'm going to use some brass tweezers. And these are rather tatty brass tweezers that I really need to redress and reshape, but hey. Anyway, so we're going to put these in, And actually, once it gets in, it's quite tricky because it is magnetic. I'm going to have to hold the movement because I've got to get this into the jewel hole. Meanwhile, it's trying to grab onto the metal. I think that's it, on both sides of it. Okay, I think that's that in place. Yep, this is the next one, next wheel going in the train. And there is a very tiny pivot hole right there, which we're going to try and use. We'll see how lucky I am with it going in. Hey, I believe that's in. There we go. And that glid down very nicely, which I appreciate. That's going to mesh with that. Sorry about that, just moving it out slightly out of your field of view. Okay. And then next up, yay, okay. I'm sorry, moved it. But anyway, there you go, that's all. Oh, when it doesn't bubble out, that's all three of them. Okay, so I think we've got that in just about the right place. And so next up is this charming little plastic cover, which just slides around the wheel there. And now that's in place, I can now grab and cross my fingers and see if I can get this on, because this is actually this plate actually has the pivot holes for the actual train itself. All right, so we're almost here. We've got to put in the catch that goes on here, and let me put this on as well. So this is all related. So we're going to put this piece in, and what this does is it's going to reverse the movement of the stem on the way out, so that as you pull the stem out to set, it's going to push this lever down. So we're going to put it in. It has a post that goes all the way through. Just making sure you can see that on the camera. I'm just going to try and push this out the way. There we go. So this is now, you can see hopefully it's now dropped in. And on the other side of this is a small pin which is going to catch into this little groove right here on the winding stem. So it's got a little pin on there that's going to get caught in there, so that now as you pull the stem out, that's going to pull the pin with it. As it goes in and out, the pin's going to go in and out, which means the end of this is going to go in and out, which is going to create the motion here on the other end of this piece. So I'm not going to put the stem in right now. However, if I were to push on this here on the post, it will spring back out, because I had to pull back the setting lever in order to actually get it in. So what they've provided very handily is a little thing which one end just slips under here, another end slips into, let's see if I can get this needs to slip into the notch on the end of the post. Come on now. Oh, I've pushed it through. See what happens when you push it through? All right, let's do that again. In it goes. Just my bad tweezer handling in this case. Okay. So let me put this on here for a moment. What an idiot. Still, if you've ever spent any time thinking, boy, everything goes just perfectly on those YouTube videos, or on other people's YouTube videos, I should say, then you know it's generally not true. Well, that bit worked. Okay. So at least get the thread biting. All right. So now, hopefully we can just, okay, do it up a little bit more. Hopefully we can put this down, and it's supposed to be under spring tension, right? So that it's there we go. So we've just got that in the frame. Good. So now that's in place. I can now finish doing this up, and that's what's going to stop this from falling out again. You heard it here first. Okay. Wow, that was good. I just blew over paper, and knocked a bunch of screws out. Okay. So definite home straight at this point. So we're going to cover up the rest of the mechanism with this plate, which says that it's, I meant to say, this is an ISA 1198, and I think it's a /101, although it doesn't actually say it on here, but it does say ISA 1198. And that's the model. I say ISA, I don't know how that's really pronounced. I think ISA Swiss. This particular one says Swiss made. They actually do a mixture apparently of Far Eastern, probably China, and Swiss made movements. So I actually have two screws that can go in, one of which really is doing the layer below. It's the actually holding on some of the bridge, the other of which is holding on this plate. Is that the screw with the big head? That's the one that goes back in with the hole with the big countersink. I am just a clumsy boy today. All right. That gets us very close. I have a horrible feeling I've misplaced another screw. Oh no, it's there. I haven't misplaced the screw. Okay, so maybe put this back in the holder because it's much easier than something that is squishy. I only put it there while we were working on it briefly when I had to flip it back and forward. So basically we can put the battery in, and then I have to hold the battery down, which is actually surprisingly tricky. Okay. So it should be that way up, so it should be making sure that there's contact. And what we should be able to do is, this one may be easier with the fingers because it's big enough, is basically stick one end in there and the other end, if I can keep it in, the other end is just going to squeeze under that screw head. It's funny, the thing on this watch with the absolute least precision is the battery holder. Go figure. Okay, anyway, that should hold the battery in, and that should now actually be moving the hands. We'll find out in a second, I suppose. So that's my 3 o'clock position, so I'm going to put that over there. And we're now at the point of rebuilding the front of the watch. Just flip it around so we can now throw this on, which I hope is in the right place. Okay, so I've got the back of my watch, got that dial. It really is quite a nice dial, actually. I've got the movement holder, the ring, and the hand. So let's get this on first. So I'm just going to turn the screws a little bit. All right. So now we've got the dial attached. So the only damage I can really see is right over here, where I don't think we're going to see it anyway. Okay, fine. Just for the sake of argument, even though no one's going to see it, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of Sharpie on the edge, because just in case it ever shows, no one's ever going to see the Sharpie. I don't want to go any further than the very edge of this. There you go, magically fixed. It's now a perfect dial. Yay. Okay. Time some hands. All right. Order. Okay. Okay. So let's pick an hour. I'm going to pick 3 because why not? Now we're going to put our minute hands on. Obviously there is no date on these, so I don't need to worry about which hour I pick or even which half of the day it thinks it is. Okay, we're getting all the way around without killing it. And let's just look at 6 o'clock. That's pretty good, right? Okay, so now let's put on the seconds hand. See if they can help me come in at an angle. So I've got the movement working again. I pushed in the hands too hard and that had just disconnected some of the gears inside. There is a lot of play. There's a large tolerance for end shake on basically all of the gears, which kind of sucks. However, so I've put this back together. I've got everything working. I put the black case around the outside. I've got an old sealing ring which I'm going to get rid of and replace with a new one, which I hope is okay. It's a little bit thinner, but hopefully will be okay. I'm just going to give it a quick quick bath in some lubricant in my extremely cheap eBay lubricant holder. Okay, well, at least the size looks right, so that's something. I'll be able to use that. Okay, and so where are we? We're at the point where I need to take out, so let's get this back in the case. I did have a go at the glass on this case with Polywatch, that's the stuff. And actually I think that's come out pretty well. If you remember what it looked like before, it was pretty scratched up and pretty grim. And while this is not perfect, it's certainly a vast improvement on where it was prior. So I'm not going to complain about that. So now we can put the back on with the new seal, and that's just a pressure fit. I do not have a fancy tool, which means I'm going to have to do my best to do it with hand pressure, which is probably not great. But I will try and line it up. Alright. Got it in without smashing it. It is actually interesting that it may not show up properly on the camera, but you can see where the strap was. You can just about see the kind of staining, and it's just where the strap, the NATO strap, has rubbed against it, which is kind of interesting. So speaking of straps, okay, I believe it should go this way. And these are tight, by the way. I commented when I took the other one out that it was incredibly tight. Well, this is the same. And so what we'll do on this one is pull it. So it's up here. Pull that through. And so now you can see how the strap's going to work. I've got the bars there. So push this over and feed the strap back through. I realise here I am showing you how to do a NATO strap, like you've never seen a NATO strap before, but not every NATO strap works that way. The one that came off it didn't, for example. So there we go. So there's the Marathon Navigator watch. If anyone knows how to refresh the numbers around the outside, they're dug in, they're engraved, so I might be able to fill them up with something. But that might refresh the look if, rather than being a little bit yellowed and dirty, they were actually bright white again. And let me put it on my wrist. Yeah, for a watch I paid almost nothing for, I think I'm pretty pleased with that. I do appreciate you staying with me for this rather long video, but I hope you got something out of it, if nothing else, just an opportunity to laugh at someone making mistakes. I did notice that I have broken the hacking function, so I'll be digging back in to fix that. Otherwise, thanks for watching with me, and I'll see you again as I try and break another watch. Take care.